some people might not know. We did a lesson maybe like 2 weeks ago on calculation. Um,
Yeah.
and okay, I had some tournaments. You've been streaming. So how's your chess been going since then?
I think it's better. I just got 1800. Well, yesterday I lost the 1800, but it's okay. But I reached it, and I'm very happy about it. Now I want to go to 1900, and I think the time management is improving, and I think that's a good thing too. I still struggling in the openings, the theory, and also like I still blundering and calculating a little bit. Not
Mm-hmm.
good, not well. But I think I feel I'm improving. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, cool.
Okay.
So I thought for today, what would be cool is I've been working on this course on the King's Indian, and I created a bunch of exercises for it that kind of come out of the opening. And I know you play the King's Indian,
Yeah, I like the games in there.
so I figure it might be kind of useful killing two birds with one stone. We can talk about some King's Indian positions. Because the exercises actually I would say they're kind of a mix. Some are going to be tactical, some more positional. Um, but I guess it'll give us a good idea of like maybe how you approach some of these positions. And I would say these aren't too difficult. They're meant for like 12 to 1800, so a little bit on the easier side. Um, but I don't know. Actually, I haven't really tested them on a lot of people, so uh, I don't know. We'll see. I think they'll be cool.
Yeah, and this course you are preparing, it will be where? In YouTube or
Oh,
Chessable?
yeah. So the opening course is mainly going to be available for members of the Dojo training program. So that's going to be on Dojo site. It might one day make its way to Chessable as well, because I'm kind of building it with Chessable in mind. Because Jesse has a repertoire there now, so yeah, it'll definitely probably see Chessable one day. But for now, we're adding it to. It's just going to be on our own site for a bit.
It's good to know where to find it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, yeah, people like these exercises, and then they want to go check them out.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's definitely a very important part of like learning an opening is kind of learning the common tactics that you might see and a lot of like typical ideas and themes. So
Yeah.
I think it's good to review a lot of examples.
Yeah.
Um, okay, ready? Are you in the classroom?
Yes, I'm in the classroom.
Awesome. All right, let's do it. Okay, so wait, it gave me an error, so I'm gonna need a second here. Does this work? Okay, this is number one. These are all gonna be black to play, so you might want to flip the board.
Okay. All black to play. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So these are tactics, right? Um
Yeah, I would say
the
all the
last
exercises are gonna have like a clear solution, but some will be tactical, some will be like more strategic. So there
okay.
won't necessarily be a tactic in every position.
The last lesson, you told me that the first thing I can calculate are the checks and then the captures. So I see something. I think, well, I can trade bishops, but I don't think that's the move. I think knight takes e4 is the move, attacking the queen. And once if he takes the knight, I play queen h4 check,
Mm-hmm.
and after he moves the king, or cover the check, I take the bishop with the queen. With the queen, and I won a pawn. Is that the
Okay.
move?
Yeah, knight e4 is good. Let's look at it a little deeper.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely right. This one is like a very thematic shot. So whenever like bishop is on h6, pawn's on f3, yeah, you definitely kind of want to watch out for this one.
Yeah.
So after knight takes, queen h4, let's say white goes g3.
And I take the bishop.
Yeah, so queen takes, right? White can, let's say, trade.
Yeah.
And then take on d6 at the end.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't calculate
That's
that
okay.
far.
That's fine. It was like you're only looking at it for like 2 seconds. That's fine. I just wanted to look at this endgame a bit because white does get the pawn back, so material equalizes. But maybe we could just take a second and think about how you would evaluate this position because I think that's also kind of interesting.
Well, the pawn is an isolated pawn. The pawn on d5, so I think it's weak. Maybe I can try attacking the pawn. Okay, let me think. I can try to play knight b6, attacking the pawn and not letting the bishop comes to c4. And after maybe he defend the pawn to in d1, defending the pawn. I can play maybe the rook d8, attacking the knight. So once he takes knight, knight takes c8, I take back with the rook on a8. And how he will defend that pawn, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he can. Oh, he will push the pawn to d6, and I just attack again with the bishop on f8, and now I'm winning the pawn. Yeah, I think. Is that?
Okay, well, I mean, it's a pretty concrete line, right? So
Yeah.
I was really kind of thinking about how to like evaluate the position, but calculating can help you evaluate sometimes. So yeah, actually, like after knight b6, becomes clear like the d pawn is very hard to defend. You might just be winning it outright anyway. But also, like let's say we just look at the position a little bit. White has like 0 development, right? Other than this knight on d6, which is about to get like hit with rook d8. And yeah, you're not only getting this pawn, but like your pieces are getting into the game. Black's rooks are active, and you have this like very very strong dark squared bishop, especially on this diagonal. It's just going to be incredibly powerful. Like you put it on d4, and it just controls absolutely everything.
Everything. Yeah.
So yeah, although material is like equal at first, actually I would say black probably has a pretty serious advantage, maybe even winning advantage, just because of all the factors like lead in development, strong bishop, weak pawn, all this stuff just kind of adds up a lot in black's favor.
The queen, the king in the center, maybe. Oh.
Yeah, also could be a target, absolutely. Like your rooks come to the e file, and yeah, white is going to have to, because there's a lot of pieces on the board, so king safety is definitely still an issue. So okay, yeah, I just wanted to spend a second on this endgame because this is kind of like could be like a typical endgame you might see, and it's important to understand that like even the endgames can be very very good for black. If you have nice lead in development, strong bishop, it can just be fantastic. All right, number 2.
He winning a piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think g5.
G5. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. After bishop g3, just h4, and the bishop is trapped.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, pretty simple. There's not much to look at here. Just a matter of whether you spot this idea or not. But yeah, g5, and that's it. Black just wins a piece, and bishop gets trapped. Actually, pretty common trap. A lot of bishops get trapped like this. Because
Yeah.
white doesn't realize they needed to play, like, let's say f3 last move instead of maybe knight b5 was played, for example. Let's go to the next one.
Okay. This position, I arrived like very similar many times, but I never. I'm confused many times. I was confused how to play it.
That's good.
Yeah. I just know there is some sacrifice, but I don't know where. I
That's fine. Yeah, take your time.
Okay. Thank you. Mm, well, I know this position is like the bishop of the last squares is really important because sacrifice or help to checkmate in the king side. So I'm thinking like maybe I can now sacrifice bishop to h3, but I don't know. I don't see if that's the best or not. Okay, I think it's the bishop sacrifice on h3. After he takes the bishop, if he takes the bishop, I play queen d7, so he cannot defend the pawn on h3. If he plays bishop f1, trying to defend that, I just take the pawn on f3 and I fork the king and the queen. But if not, the queen to e1 maybe, and I just take and I threat checkmate. Yeah, I think it's winning, but I don't see something. How you say concrete? Is that the word?
Concrete. Mm-hmm.
Concrete. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, you're very close. I feel like you're basically there. So, let's just try to visualize it all the way. So takes. You wanted queen d7.
Yeah.
Then you're thinking like queen e1 maybe. Queen takes h3. And what's your threat?
My threat is checkmate on g2.
Mate on g2, right? So that's very concrete. So if white makes some random move, you're giving mate.
Yeah.
So how can white defend? Any way to cover this square?
I think has to move the bishop, but in that case I win a queen, and I think I checkmate. No, yes, I checkmate. Yeah,
Right.
and if he placed queen f1, I checkmate on h2.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's just over. So I mean, I think you intuitively understood that it's mate, but yeah, also it's like if you just kind of spend a little bit more time looking at it, you'd realize like actually it's just no way out. Yeah, it's just completely dead. Okay, good. So yeah, takes was right. Queen d7.
Queen d7.
I think in the game white tried this one to defend f3.
And also the rook will defend the checkmate. The rook on c2.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get bishop f1 and cover the rook. So how would you continue the game here?
I'm just going to take the pawn.
Okay.
On h3. And after bishop f1, I can try to play g2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm winning a piece. No, well, I sacrifice one. Yeah, I think I'm threatening checkmate.
Yeah, you're winning a lot more than a piece.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's very strong. This G2 idea, I just kind of wanted to show, like, even if white can defend against the immediate mate, G2 is often super super strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just no way out, right? Bishop e2, just check, and you can promote. Um, so very good. Okay, so yeah, this is like very typical sacrifice. This bishop h3 like comes up in a lot of King's Indians, and yeah, sometimes it can be very tricky to calculate. I would say this is, let's say, an easier case where it's like, all right, takes queen d7, and white doesn't have bishop f1, so it's very, that's kind of the key thing here, right? It's um, yeah, very difficult for white to hold on. But also with the rook on g7 and this g2 idea, this gives black just a ton of juice in the attack.
I think this is great. Like if you can win the game like this in your opening, is cool.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is the best, right? This is exactly why
Yeah.
you play the King's Indian.
Yeah.
uh, totally. Well, no, it's a great opening. Go to the next one. All right, black to play.
Okay. Looks impossible. There is some tactic here. I'm thinking on knight e4 maybe, but I think it just changed. Like trade knights. I don't know. There is any tactic here. Looks normal position. I don't want to say something crazy. Like I don't know. Okay, it's knight e4.
You like 94?
Yeah, I don't see anything else. Knight e4, knight takes e4. If he takes, and bishop takes. And now I'm threatening the pawn on b2. And I don't think he can defend that pawn.
Oh, gotcha. So you like 94 because you like the pressure on b2 at the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I chose knight e4. Maybe he can try to attack the bishop, but after I move the bishop, I'm still attacking and yeah, but wait, if
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, this is the right move, and it's also not just because it's awkward for white to figure out what to do with this one, but just in general, in terms of the structure, it's very helpful for black to trade off a pair of pieces because you have less space, and trading off a pair of knights really helps black kind of free their position. Let's just give white two moves, for example. Let's say white could play like rook d1. We make some move, and then white goes b3. So we're not really winning a pawn here as black, but we're still much happier that there's not a second knight on f6 that would be blocking the bishop and blocking this knight, which can also kind of use this square.
okay.
So just kind of a useful thing to know about these positions.
Yeah, I didn't know that what you said. Like try to trade some pieces because I have. You say because I have more space or
Because
what did you say?
you have less space.
Less space. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
I
because the
understand.
thing about a space advantage, it's like it's really all about not so much like where the pawns are, but actually just about the pieces. So you feel cramped when it's like your pieces are all fighting for the same square. So a good example would be if you just play like knight d7 here, for example, then white can play a move like knight h4, for instance, which would already be very, very annoying. And this bishop just feels like it has no
Oh,
room,
I see.
right? Or even just like bishop d3 here, for example. Let's say take, take. Okay,
And
this pawn
still,
is hanging, but then there's like also rook b1.
and the rook enter in b7.
Yeah. So this position here, like, black would feel much more comfortable if these two knights were off the board. Like, black would actually be happy because then the bishop is open. You have knight e5, so much more room, and then it wouldn't actually feel like white has a bunch of extra space. But with more minor pieces on the board, you definitely start to feel cramped.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very useful.
This is a game I played a couple years ago. I want to show you just a couple more moves. After knight e4 takes.
This is your game?
Yeah, actually, this was one of the first games I played with the King's Indian. It was like a G30 tournament game. White played actually interesting move here, bishop h6. So this is kind of the next question for you. How should black continue?
Okay. Why I cannot take the pawn on B? Ah, okay, because my rook. I know, but I take the rook back, but he takes the pawn on D6. Well, I can try to take the pawn on B2. Queen takes. If queen takes, I take the queen with the bishop. Queen takes the rook on F8. I take the rook on A1, and then after bishop takes D6, I can take the knight. So we are trading everything, and bishop takes the bishop. Then I can bring the bishop to D4, defending C5. But what I don't like is like the pass pawn on D5. That's the thing I don't like. But I don't know if that's a problem or not. Because I can try to go to rook D8 and then B5. I don't know if all this calculation makes sense.
Well, it's very deep, right? So it's gonna be hard to kind of always calculate your way to a solution. At a certain point, you do have to, let's say, stop and evaluate. And in fact, I might be getting a sense of where your time trouble is coming from, because it's like,
Yeah. Oh my god.
because you're like calculating a line, and then, you know, maybe it's time to evaluate it, right? Like you're in an end game because you have other options as well. But yeah, if you keep going like deeper and deeper, it's not necessarily going to get more clear. You know, because there's always going to be complications, right?
Okay, I will try to think another move. I can try to take the knight on F3. Actually, I think it's not bad because that bishop is not very good. That's what I think. Oh, yeah, and also that knight. Well, he cannot checkmate me if I take the knight, and we trade the bishops in. I think I will choose that. Like bishop takes F3, and then yeah, I'm not winning anything. Bishop, I can take the bishop on H6. Queen takes the bishop, and I take the knight. Then bishop takes bishop, and I can take on the pawn on B2 with the queen. And after like rook B1, I play queen D4, attacking the pawn on C4. And after he takes on B7, I mean the rook looks active, but I'm winning a pawn. So is that or no?
Okay, yeah, that's good. Let's look at it. So, you said bishop takes h6 first, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, is there a reason you want this one and not this one first?
Yes, because he can take on G7 and then check with the queen on C3
Right.
and defend. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, white gets to throw this one, and so you won't be able to take on b2 in this line. And then if we continue, let's say this way, white takes here, right?
Yeah,
Takes.
I don't think. Yeah, and then checkmate. No, like queen h6.
Exactly. Yeah, this would be annoying. I think it's not like, okay, it's not totally game over. There's like queen takes b2.
Ah, yeah.
Maybe take on d6. Maybe rook takes f1. Um,
And it's not interesting to play rook b1 instead of.
yeah, rook b1 could be possible as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then maybe like queen f6 back. Um,
And okay.
yeah, maybe it's not a great tempo for white. I'm not sure. Um,
Okay.
but but the practical side is like, okay, black doesn't want. It's like way too way too messy, right? So it's like so much simpler to just take on h6 because this is the variation that we actually want. We want to take on f3. Here, white has no alternatives, and then already I would say this is an achievement. Like you called out, this was a bad bishop. That's totally right. Like I would say this is kind of the dream that black wants. This knight or a knight against this bishop. Or pretty much any piece, even like if you had a dark squared bishop, like opposite color bishops, I would still think black has a big advantage because your bishop is so much stronger in this position. So yeah, just having like knight versus bishop is already, I think, that gives black something to play for, but being able to snag a pawn and get away with it is definitely a good thing if we can do it. Okay, so now I think you said
So
rook
you think,
b1.
yeah, it's good idea to let him to enter on b7 because I mean the rook is active, but I don't see checkmate. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of a matter of judgment, but you are getting the extra material. So with rook a b1, I think we can take here. Let's say rook b7,
ah, yeah,
and then take this one.
another pawn. Yeah, 2 pawns.
Then it's 2 pawns, right? Um, and as long as you're not getting mated, should be pretty okay for you. Queen d4, queen f6. Um, there is a question in chat: why does black want to take the knight on f3? Otherwise, knight g5 would be a super annoying threat.
Yeah, that's why I take the bishop on
Yeah,
h6 because I'm able to get rid of that knight. It's scary.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we're also, as we mentioned, leaving white with this bad bishop. So yeah, I think you're right to be concerned, like because you never know. Sometimes there's like some crazy tactics, and you have to be careful. But yeah, it doesn't seem like white has quite enough, and black is ready. Put the queen on f6. Knight can jump out, or you can just start like running the a pawn, and this a pawn runs super fast. You know, it's super annoying for white to deal with.
Yeah, and that bishop is not doing anything. That's why I like it too. But
Yeah.
how to develop my knight a little bit?
Yeah, that's definitely the big question still for black. How to, if you can get your knight to e5 or something, right? You're just like completely winning. So
Can go through a6 maybe.
yeah,
And
this would be one way for sure. You might also just have time for like a very simple like queen f6, rook d8, knight d7.
yeah,
Uh, cool. So yeah, I definitely think this is the best decision. It wasn't like the only way to play the position. Like after bishop h6, like you could
so
just
what did you play?
oh, I went for it. I took the pawn. Yeah. I mean, but in the game, white went rook fb1. But I think this was worse because now I play queen d4 and
yeah, and he cannot take the pawn back.
yeah, exactly. So then I was just able to get the knight out and just kind of win slowly.
Did you win?
Yeah. I mean, my opponent was a lot lower rated, so it wasn't like the hardest game. But yeah, I did think this knight e4, this is kind of a important, I think, idea to remember. Especially in this structure, we call it like a symmetrical Benoni, because it's like Benoni, but white when e takes d5. It's very possible for black to get squeezed here if we're not careful. So we're always trying to trade a piece off. Like actually, second best move in this position, I think, would be bishop g4, with the idea to just take and just kind of free the position a bit so that this bishop doesn't cause black problems later. Any questions on that one?
No, I don't think so.
All right, cool. Next one.
Yeah, I see this. I can get in this position very easily.
Can imagine how this happened.
Yeah. The King's Indian has a little bit similarity with the dragon, right? Or no?
Yeah, definitely. They're both like fianchetto openings.
Yeah. I'm saying that because there is a theme in the dragon, when they accelerated, I think, where you can take the pawn on e4. I don't wait. I'm dreaming, I think. No. Okay. I think here to play e5 makes sense. Yeah. I don't see any tactic. Oh. Okay, I think I can try to play knight d7. So I have two pieces attacking the pawn on d4. And he just pushed the pawn on d5, attacking the knight. I was thinking to play knight b5. Thank you for the prime, Felix. But I think he just go back to bishop e1. And then if I try to play the other knight to e5, he just go to oh, I kind of like e5. Yeah, I think I like more e5 of this idea to play knight d. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a look. So e5 is definitely a very thematic move here, right? Just fighting for the d4 square. So let's say white pushes d5. I think this would be kind of the critical move.
Yeah, and I go knight d4.
Knight d4. Okay. So yeah, of course we're not afraid of this one, because then black gets a very strong dark sword bishop. And let's say knight d7. And now you get knight c5, you get knight e5.
Or c5. Or something.
Yeah, I'd probably put it on c5. And this pawn on d4, okay, it's like in the way of the bishop, but it's quite annoying for white. I would say it's quite a strong pawn. You can play like queen f6, bring your rooks to the e file, play even for f5 at some point. So should be a very comfortable position for black. c6 also, kind of open up the queen this way. Lots and lots of counterplay. So white might maybe do something like queen d1, like drop back. not to give up the important bishop.
And now c5.
And c5.
I
Yeah.
like to play c5. I don't know.
No, I think this is super reasonable. Yeah, absolutely. If white doesn't take, then your knight is just strong, and it's a very closed position. So white's two bishops are not that powerful. And from here, you could play for a plan of like bringing the knight back and going f5, especially if white castles kingside.
Yeah. One thing I don't understand very well here when you have the two pawns, like the one on e5 and the other on c5, and then you have your knight in d4, like everything is perfect. But once he just take the knight, maybe with a bishop or with another knight, like with which pawn is better to take? With the e1 because it takes like it can free the bishop. Is that or not?
Yeah, no, it's always a really hard question. I think it kind of depends on, let's say, I would think about the future pawn structure, like in
Yeah.
terms of the pawn breaks and the future positions. In this case, I'm not sure if it makes a huge difference. I kind of like CD here just optically because it gives you more. This is like taking towards the center, and then you get this nice c5 square for the knight, like e5 somewhere, and yeah, then f5, and you just get this massive pawns. E takes d4 might be okay as well, but then white gets like f4 at some point, and maybe has a little bit more play in the position.
Okay.
Though I don't know, this position looks very nice for me as well. Like rook e8, you just put pressure here, knight h5. So I feel like both are probably okay in this case. I know that's not helpful, but it just kind of depends. You know, this is one like where I don't know of a good like rule of thumb for this.
Yeah, but it's good to know the idea. Like if I take with c, like knight d7 and then knight c5, and if I take with e, I just open uh, the line for the rook. I don't know. So yeah,
Yeah,
because I didn't have any idea after to take with the pawn on c, but now
yeah, at least you have something to work with. And in many cases, both are probably fine. And it actually like it doesn't even make sense to spend a ton of time on it because both are relatively equal. So you might as well just choose one and then continue, and then save your time for later moment when things get very sharp. But yeah, and then if white were to take en passant, then this is a very nice structure for black because you're covering these squares from white's knights. And main plan here would be to bring this knight over to c5 and play on all the dark squares.
yeah, okay.
And yeah, I think this is very comfortable for black. So this is definitely very reasonable approach, like e5 and just knight d4. The other move you mentioned was also good, knight d7.
Yeah, I was not sure because, like, I mean, I don't want to take the bishop on d3 because that's not a very good bishop. That's why.
So you're thinking white goes d5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, d5, and then let's say black does this one, queen e2.
It's coming f4. So.
Yeah, I would say this is also very, very reasonable for black. Although it looks like white is getting a ton of space. The nice thing is because you've traded off a couple of pieces already, and on f4, you're going to be able to take this one. Here, I would say, yeah, black is actually also just really comfortable. Like something like c6. And then let's say... Mm-hmm.
F4?
Yeah, let's say
F.
f4. Take this one. Queen takes. Um, since we've traded off some minor pieces, it's like white's pawns are actually not that scary. Because like the more pawns white pushes, the more they're kind of opening up lines around their own king as well. For example, let's just take a look at this position. You could build up with certain moves like Queen
Okay.
A5.
And to take on D5 is okay or no?
Taking on D5.
Mm.
This could be okay as well. I don't see anything super wrong with this for black. Let's say C takes.
Yeah, I think I have these positions many times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I play something like A6 and then Rook C8 or
Yeah, I would think as long as white isn't getting some kind of insane attack here, like F5 or E5, but all these moves seem just under control. Then white's space is not actually that impressive because you have a super strong bishop, you have good squares for your knight, you have the open C file. Like black is actually the one that's getting a lot of counterplay on the queen side. So this is kind of an interesting position. Like if you just take this one for example, like if you add a knight on f6 for black here and like a bishop on c8 and then you give white, knight on f3, bishop d3, queen e2, then black would be much worse because then white would have a lot of space and the pieces would be super cramped. But this is another example like when you have a couple pieces traded off, it's actually a lot easier for black to play the position. All the pieces aren't fighting for the same squares, and it's much harder for white to control more space without having like all the minor pieces in the position. So it basically means black gets a lot more files and room to work with.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, now in terms of the puzzle, I mean, I think actually these lines are basically equivalent, like knight d7. Okay, this one comes with a Q trick. If white goes knight e2, black to play.
I think I can still play in E5, pawn E5.
Okay, so e5, let's say d5,
And then again, knight
or
D4.
yeah, I agree. This is still very, very decent for black. But what else? What else? Try to
Okay.
take a fresh look at the position.
Knight B4, attacking the bishop. After he defends or move the bishop to B1, I can play C5. Oh, okay. I see another thing too.
Uh-huh.
Knight E5.
And e5, good.
Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, that's a nice one. And okay, that just kind of ruins white's position. So you're winning the pawn, you're taking on d3.
We check.
White loses castling rights. You're taking b2. It's just yeah, just terrible. But you were right in thinking that anyway. D5 is the key move that black has to deal with. Okay. Any questions on this one?
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Maybe one more.
Okay.
Yeah, black to play.
Queen C8.
Mm-hmm.
I feel uncomfortable here.
Okay, that's fine. So yeah, you're not sure how to proceed in this position, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, I guess a simple question about what
Ah,
phase of the game would you say this is?
The middle game.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
honestly, to me, it looks closer to like I would say either late opening or early middle game,
yeah.
right? The big question is still how to develop knight on b8, because yeah, it's a close position, but we should probably connect rooks as black, and then we have to figure out what our plan is. Yeah, the question is, what do we want to do with this knight?
Okay. Okay. I was thinking bring the knight at the beginning, bring the knight on to a6 to try to take it to c5.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm just seeing something differently. I think I
Yeah.
think I can try to take the pawn on e4 because my bishop because the pawn on b3 like my bishop can try to do something like if I
Mm-hmm.
take the pawn on b e4 knight takes knight and f5 once he moved the knight I just attack the other knight but okay if he goes well he can just move okay if I play f5 he can go to knight g5 knight c3 and knight e2. So if he goes to knight g5 I just attack the other knight and I attack three pieces I think like the queen is attacking the knight on g5 the pawn is attacking the knight on f3 and the bishop is attacking the rook. So I don't think that's the move. I think maybe knight d2, but still, I think the knight block the 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 other knight. Like if he wants to like cover the diagonal with knight d4 and goes back to if instead to go to d2 the knight goes to c3. I just play again e4 and I attack the two knights. Oh, I think it's that. Knight c3 and I attack the two knights. I think I got it. Okay, I play queen f6. If bishop defends the knight, bishop e3, I can try to play c5. He just moved the knight again, and yeah, I don't think so. I think I arrived there.
So not working, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not working.
but that's good that you work through it. So yeah, it takes. This is a very typical idea, especially if you get f5 e4 and you're hitting the rook. Um, but yeah, I think knight c3 is the issue.
Yeah.
e4 knight d4. Yeah, black isn't getting the piece back. It seems. Um, okay, so yeah, that's not working.
Uh,
So remember, we were trying to figure out what to do about knight on
I am
b8.
sorry. I'm sorry to
No, no,
go
all good, all
there.
good.
I thought it was a good idea.
When you see something, it's important. It's very important to check it. Yeah, of course.
Mm. Yeah, knight a6,
Hmm.
trying to go to c5. I think that can be the move.
Okay, so knight a6 is definitely a big candidate, right?
Mm.
Now, the question here is what happens is because you're threatening to go knight c5 and attack the pawn.
Yeah, I think that is what I'm thinking.
So let's say knight a6, white defends this one, like rook e1, for example. Then what's the issue with knight c5?
I, it, the issue is the pawn can attack the knight.
Yeah, you just get hit with b4. And your knight has to go back to a6, and white goes a3, and then your knight's just dead. So what can black do to kind of fix this problem?
Can play, I think, a5. I was not saying a5 because the square on b5, but I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I can think he can play a5 and then play knight a6.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this case, like, this is the right move. Just carving out space first, and then your knight can come to a6 and c5 eventually. And it's a closed position, so you kind of have time for this. It's not like, you can't afford to spend this tempo. And yeah, b5 squared, not such a big deal. Let's say white makes some normal moves. Okay, the knight can come to b5, but yeah, it does very little there actually. It's just kind of hitting the pawn, and that's it. It's kind of a long way from actually
And
threatening something.
and if he tries to keep playing b4 like with a3 and then to try to play b4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is definitely like white's like main plan in the position. So a lot of times black makes moves like b6 to kind of defend the c5 square in advance. You also have ideas of putting your queen on e8, so that on b4 you can meet it with knight a4, so you don't have to go back with your knight.
Ah, okay.
So there are different kind of ways of handling it. Also, okay, very classic plan, of course, is to just move the knight and be able to play f5, so that on b4 you're in time to take this one, for instance.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
And then it's okay, still very, very kind of complicated position, of course. But that is, I mean, absolutely kind of white's main approach in this position. They're still trying to get to take over the queen side. But yeah, this a5 move, very important. And shows up in a lot of different King's Indian lines where it's like you need to make this move first, and then your knight kind of jumps out behind the pawn.
Yeah.
If you have time, I can just show you a couple moves in this game. This was a online
Okay.
game, but pretty high level. This was Navarra against Adiban playing black. Do you know GM Adiban from India?
No, I don't know him.
Well, super strong,
Yeah.
strong player. So after a5, white went knight e1, which is like very typical maneuver, bringing the knight to d3. Knight a6, knight d3, and b6. Because if black plays knight c5, they want to be able to take back with the b pawn, usually, and keep the center under control.
I have a question.
Mhm.
If the knight go to c5 like after in the future here, and if he trace the knight and you go like the plans, you say b takes c5.
Mhm.
This is like no how to continue because it's very close, and I don't see maybe f5. Okay, that's the only one I see.
Yeah, that's going to be the usual plan. And I mean, almost like any structure where you have like a closed center like this, and your pawns are aiming towards the king side, we're always just kind of thinking about knight e8 f5, or knight h5 f5.
Yeah.
Knight h5, you have to be a little bit careful because, like, just for example, um, when you go f5 and takes, it's like the knight can be hanging. You want to be able to
Ah,
take back with the pawn, right? Um, but then you wouldn't be able to. So sometimes, like, let's say knight e8 is pretty typical, and then you can play f5 safely, and you're looking for f4 or just knight f6 back, and yeah, trying to get the typical kingside counterplay.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the game, white played bishop g5, Okay, some nuance. Black played h6. White goes back. Then knight g4. Just taking advantage of this move. Bishop d2. f5. So black gets their play-in. f3, and then knight drop back to f6.
It's like the black won 2 tempos or something like that with knight g4 and then h6 because he wanted to move the knight. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
honestly kind of strange what Navarra did. I can't say I really get it. I mean, it was a blitz game, so hard to criticize too much. But yeah, because like this h6 move is kind of useful for black in the future. It controls some squares and it supports like the pawn storm. Maybe he'll go h5 anyway, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, and black gets f5 in. So yeah, definitely kind of worked out for black.
Okay.
So queen c2, knight c5, a3. Black took, queen takes, f4.
Close. He's giving a pawn.
Yeah, it's kind of a thematic sacrifice. So if white takes, there's a couple ideas. One is you could try to take right away, and then play knight h5. This can be annoying.
Yeah.
Then queen h4 is coming. So very typical kind of sacrifice on the dark squares, like queen h4, bishop e5, and then yeah, it's very annoying for white to deal with this. And the other idea might be to just play knight h5 immediately. This might also be strong.
Okay. If he takes on e5, I take back with the pawn or with the bishop.
With the bishop, definitely with the bishop. Yeah, because
Okay.
we would just be playing for this attack.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't be afraid of stuff like this. You just have to trust that everything is gonna pay off.
The power of the King's Indian.
Yeah, I mean it looks pretty brutal for white. Like for example, let's say bishop takes f8. What would you play here as black?
Well, I have 2 moves like queen directly to h2 check and then knight f4.
Mm-hmm.
I think knight f4.
Knight f4, good.
Yeah.
Because okay, just threatening everything, and then queen d2, or
And then knight takes h3.
yeah, just me. Okay, good. Okay, I'm glad you didn't try to calculate this first, and then like here, and then here, and then you're like, like where's the because it's like okay, you see knight f4 is just way easier. It's just immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this is kind of a sample line, but yeah, it shows this dark square attack. It can just be like absolutely vicious. So, yeah, very kind of like thematic sacrifice. White, of course, tries to ignore it, but black anyway gets to make some progress. So takes, h5, c5, and he took once. And now another just like super nice move that like very instructive, h4.
It looks very similar of the others.
Mm-hmm.
Like trying to get into the castle. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's offering a pawn, but he wants knight h5, and then knight f4 comes in, bishop f6 to just go after this pawn. And yeah, white's king is just very, very weak. Someone was asking about g4 earlier. Yeah, just quickly, like if g4 here, it's possible, but black is always going to be able to kind of open things up with h5. So let's say knight h7 first, for example, and then next move could be h5, and then it's very hard for white to keep the king side closed.
Okay, because cannot play directly, no?
Yeah, if this right away, then maybe g5 and h4.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This would be kind of annoying to break through.
Yeah.
But you can also play g5 first, for example, and then h5, and then even build up on the h file. That would be yeah, that would be awkward for white to deal with as well.
Okay.
So game went, yeah, so it was b4, and then after h4 takes, knight h5, c6, bishop c8. Yeah, black just went on to kind of slowly just take over on the king side. Knight f4, everything came in, h pawn was weak, and yeah, went on to win.
Yeah. So black won?
Yeah.
Black win?
Yeah. The rest of the game I can send it to you. It's not like super interesting, but it was pretty straightforward. It was just like knight came to f4, bishop came to a6. Black just started taking over everything. Okay, yeah, I just want to show you a couple moves there just because I feel like, I don't know, the middle game and how to play it is pretty interesting. But
Thank you. Yeah, I like
main
it.
thing was this a5 move.
I learned. Yeah, I learning how to play because I swear this position, particularly the last one, I didn't like to play against this. All the time I was trying to not to get here, but I think it's good to know the ideas and.
Yeah, it can right, it can feel very cramped if you're not familiar with these positions. So yeah, it's important to always try to understand like how you're going to get counterplay, what your plan is, what you're playing for. But yeah, I think the best way to learn this stuff is probably by going through a lot of games to see how other King's Indian players handle these positions.
See, I will play a lot of blitz and everything. No, if I can play this like in an actual game with another uh, high rated person, and if I can get like a really good game, and I will be really happy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, just have to keep playing, and then analyze your games because you'll always see, you'll always like find chances right that you might have missed or ways you could have improved, and yeah, slowly you start to accumulate like all these different ideas, right? Like you have to miss it a couple times, and you're like, oh, right, and then one day you you find the opportunity during your game to try something out that you've seen before, and then yeah, that always feels great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for the lesson today.
absolutely.
I think I really like this
Great.
because I learned many ideas and in this opening, what I like a lot. So yes, it's cool.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Yeah, I feel like it's very helpful to see a lot of like thematic ideas and positions. I'd be happy to send you I have like 60 exercises, so I'll send you the rest of them if you want to keep going through them.
Yes, I want it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Let
It will
me
be-
give you a shout out in our channel, folks. You should go follow Alexandra on Twitch. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found it useful. I'd be happy to do another lesson sometime soon.
Yeah, thank
Keep
you.
up the good
Yeah, I
work.
will like it. Yeah, I think these lessons are good. Thank you so much. You are really good teaching and
Absolutely.
everything. Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, Alex, take care. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.